started on a news today. A soldier has come home. Surprise a little family today. They're finally home and home. And they're standing by your side every time you call. Yes, they're standing by your side every time you call.
Hey folks, Bill Peters here. Welcome to slice number 52. Originally this slice was supposed to be a live one, but I had equipment malfunctions, so we'll have to settle for this. And we'll schedule our live show either next week or whenever I can get my guests to reschedule with me. They were all gracious about the whole thing. Thank God. Thanks, guys. I can't wait to talk to Bruce Fenton about his Aboriginal studies that he's done. But I thought I'd rehash something in this episode. It's been a year, and I've touched on items found in coal several times, and I've touched on things found in rocks, and I've touched on footprints in the stones, and we talk about time and what it means in this case, and it varies. I think there is empirical proof to show that humans and giants and reptilians all lived prior to this last ice age and well into times of dinosaurs. As a matter of fact, as the dinosaurs were dying off, was there a mass extinction event? Yes, there was an event that buried up a whole bunch of these things. Yes, that did happen. However, the reptilian dinosaur, the larger dinosaurs, were starting to die off before this cataclysmic event. I'm pretty sure that we have enough proof now, both biological and with the fossil record and dating and things, and I think you'll find that a lot of like the Tyrannosaurus rex and the Brontosaurus and many other of the huge, larger reptiles were had already died off before the cataclysm, or at least were on their way out in most areas. However the case may be, it is pretty good bet that humans, reptilians, giants, and maybe other races all either evolved here. I'm not going to say humans because there's a mixed bag on that. I believe that humans were probably originally colonists to this world, hence the giant races. I think that the home intelligence were the reptilians and the later on African hominids that the Sumerians wrote about. I believe that there were other races already here before the Anunnaki messed with the African breeds that we read about. I think it was civilizations all over the earth before that, and all you're hearing is one story out of the whole mess in the Bible. We know a lot more if 98% of all the ancient libraries had survived. The Atlantean Library, the Alexandria Library. There's supposed to be 3 other unfound, besides that, there's supposed to be 5 altogether. 5 of these locations or depositories of knowledge or suppositories of knowledge. But my contention is that mankind has been around at least 250 million years. And perhaps after the extinction event, the mankind that had risen to that point got wiped out back to caveman. It could happen. What happens if we get with let's say we got hit with an EMP, followed by a huge asteroid impact that put a dust cloud into the air and covered everything up. Great walls of ice developed, crushing everything into oblivion. And over 20,000 years, what do you think would be left? What would be left of your house? Grinding ice, 20,000 years. You think your cell phone would show up in some fossil record somewhere? Not likely. So, you've got to think about that. Now, giants were either evolved during the dinosaur age, and along with reptilians, they would have had to have been. I mean, everything was bigger back then, right? We can think of it that way. Large reptilian species would have had to have evolved out of dinosaurs. Think of it. Dinosaurs had 250 million years to evolve. There had to have been superior intelligence in that timeline. Had to be. There's no other way to explain any of it. I think perhaps the most compelling part of that statement, to me anyway, is the part where there seems to be some correlation to early settlements we found in North America with actually, believe it or not, the Book of Mormon. That is interesting. It talks about ancient cities in this country. And, you know, we pay a lot of attention to the Catholic or the Christian Bible and the original Bible, the Old Testament. And we ignore a lot of the important parts. I'm hitting the wrong button, or I'd be doing better here. We ignore some of the other sources of information on just because we think it's crazy and bull. However, they talk about some cities in the book, and I'm still reading it. I'm still learning what they call things. But apparently, in the lower part of the country, in here, this whole area, was a huge empire, basically, or for what was considered an empire then. And they had wars with other empires. It was crazy. It was like being in Egypt 2,000 years before they were in Egypt. You know, it's like it happened long before that. Probably during the time when the pyramids were first built. Some of those pyramids were built so far back they don't even know who the heck built them. But today I'm going to talk about things found in coal and in rocks, and I'm not going to go through like most people and just say, you know, blah, 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 blah. I believe that sometime before the last ice age, a huge event happened, and it buried whole civilizations in sediment. And that's where our coal and our oil and our tar pits, that's where that's all coming from. Now remember, as over millions of years, things get pushed deeper and deeper, and the heat builds up. It builds up so hot that, for instance, they have found things like iron nails in quartz crystals. Think about that for a minute. Of course, quartz is squeezed up out of the earth. Being a prospector, I'm into that. I know exactly how quartz is made. It's a liquid rock that squeezes up when the two plates hit together. And when two tectonic plates are pushing up, it can even happen under the right pressure. It's going to happen. And what usually happens is a fissure opens up and the quartz jets up through it and makes these quartz veins, which is, you hear about quartz veins. Well, let's start with, so anyway, that's probably how that happened. Anyway, coal and oil is made from a lot of organic material being put in the same area, either all at once or, in the case of peat bogs, which is where they say most of this stuff comes from, which is not always true. If enough carbon-based material got put into one place, it would bury you just like these things got buried. And some of it went to coal and some of it went to oil. The more fibery the material, it would stay probably in the coal, and oil, of course, is a lot of flesh, both plants and animals, but altogether a lot of it. No oxygen gets to it, so it doesn't process like it would if it was exposed to air. Anyway, it gets buried real deep. Your heat transforms it from the pressure, and there you go. Anyway, you can look that stuff up, you guys. It takes a long time and not so long time, depending on where the stratum is. Different types of coal, depending on how long it's been in the ground. But anyway, you know, coal is crazy. In the 1800s, in Germany, they found a human skull fossil in the coal vein. In Tuscany, they found in 1958, a jawbone of a child was found inside a vein of coal. In 1926, in Montana, 2 molars were found, but they were molars for giants. They were big, 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 big. West Virginia miner found a human leg that had partially turned to coal. There you go. How long has it been there? How long does it take that to happen? In 1891 in Illinois, a gold chain fell out of one. Steel cubes, iron pots out of Oklahoma. In 1937, a child's spoon fell out of one. Of course, in 1944, my favorite is the reptilian bell. It's that alloy bell they found, and it was topped with what really looks to me to be a reptilian. As a matter of fact, why don't you check it out right now? So that's the reptilian bell. So let's talk about some of the rock formations. In the 1800s, some Cretaceous rock from the Mesozoic era, they found an iron nail in the rock. Well, there wasn't supposed to be people around then, but maybe if there was a colony, there was. Just because the planet wasn't at that stage of development doesn't mean there wasn't living, moving people around here. In England, and this is all in rock. England, gold thread was found in some rock. 1851, they found an iron. In California, iron nail and quartz. 1851 in Massachusetts, silver chalice in solid rock. 1851, the mold of a metal screw was found in feldspar. In 1852, an intricately carved and inlaid metal um, bowl was found in solid rock. And in 1572, iron nails and tools reported in stones in Peru by the Spanish. Alright, so there's, even back during the 1500s, the Spanish were like, what the hell is this going on here in America? It's crazy. South America, whatever. Alright, so in a place called Lawn Ridge, it's 20 miles north of Peoria, Illinois. I'm sorry. In August of 1870, three men were drilling a well. And they got to about 100 feet. And supposedly the pump brought up a small metal medallion. And here's a picture of that right here. Okay, so one of the workmen, his name was Joseph Moffat. He was from Chillicothe. He was the first to discover this medallion in the drill residue. So there was a noted scholar at the time, Professor Alexander Winchell, and he reported in his books, which was called Sparks from the Geologist's Hammer, or A Geologist's Hammer. But he got the report, and the guy who knew about this, William Wilmot, it was dated December 4th in 1871. He told her how deep the item was, the depth, and the type of deposits. So, and the position of where this metal coin was first discovered. Well, this strange medallion, coin medallion, whatever you want to call it, was composed of an unidentified copper alloy about the size and thickness of a U.S. quarter. One of those silver quarters from back then. So, it was very uniform in thickness and round. The edges appeared to have been cut. A researcher named William Dubois presented his investigation of the medallion to the American Philosophical Society, and he was convinced that the object had in fact passed through a rolling mill, and the edges showed further evidence of the machine shop. Okay, so despite these modern characteristics, Dubois saw plainly, in his opinion, the tooth of time is plainly visible as this statement. Now, the tooth of time is a geological feature on the Philmont Scout ranch area located about 5 miles southwest of Cimarron, New Mexico. And it's just, okay, so now we're assuming that this coin was minted. No, we haven't. Let's see. Well, we know how long this time thing is. This piece of tooth of time is a hunk of dacite porphyry rock that it's in the, I don't know, it's probably 22 to 40 million years ago. It pushed up through the ground. Humans would have been around, in my scenario, they would have been around then. Huddled up, waiting for all the shaking to stop, I would think. But, anyway, this medallion, both sides of it were marked with artwork and hieroglyphs. These had not been metal engraved or stamped. Rather, the figures had somehow been etched in acid to a remarkable degree of intricacy. One side shows the figure of a woman wearing a crown or a headdress or something. Her left arm is raised up as if in benediction, and her right arm holds a small child, and the child also has a crown. Who could that be? The woman appears to be talking, and on the other side is another central figure that looks like a crouching animal. It has long pointed ears, large eyes, and a mouth, claw-like arms, and a long tail frayed at the very end. Well, that's one interpretation. Below that, and to the left, is another animal, and sure does look like a horse, actually. Around the outer edge of both sides of the coin are undecipherable glyphs, and they have a very definite character, and they show all the signs of alphabet. Take a look at this again. Yeah, so that's that. So several interesting discoveries were made during the California Gold Rush, and that was considered between 1849 up till probably 1859 or later. Anyway, they found a prehistoric mining shaft 110 feet below the 210 feet below the surface in solid rock. They found it just showed up when digging. They also found a mortar for grinding gold ore, and it was found at a depth of 300 feet. A human skull was also found at a depth of 130 feet under 5 beds of lava and tufa. So they've also found bones of camels, rhinoceros, hippopotamus, horses, and other stuff in California. Almost always in gold-bearing rock and gravel, which means it had been rolled down a river. Man-made markings on petrified wood, where the petrified wood was alive when it was worked on, and that was found in India millions of years ago. So we've done all this. You know, here's something interesting you might like. In June of 1851, the Scientific American reprinted a report from the Boston Transcript of how a metallic vase was found in 2 parts, and it was dynamited out of solid rock that was 15 feet below the surface in Dorchester, Mass. Solid rock. The bell-shaped vase measured 4.5 inches by 6.5 inches and was composed of a zinc and silver alloy. On the sides were figures of flowers in bouquet arrangements inlaid with pure silver. The estimated age of the rock on which it was pulled, though, was 100,000 years. Now, the Ice Age started 6 million years ago, ended 20,000 years ago. So right dead center in the Ice Age is when that was made. 2 workmen signed affidavits to their amazing discovery in 1912 when an iron pot was found inside a large piece of coal that they were breaking up to put in a power plant. The pot left a clear fossil impression in the remaining pieces of coal, and that's considered legit. Coal miners noticed a curious slab in an Iowa coal mine in 1897, and 130 feet below the ground, just below the sandstone, which capped the seam of coal, they found several pieces of sandstone 2 feet by 1 foot wide, 4 inches thick, and the surface was inscribed with diamond shapes. Had the face of what seemed to be an old man in the middle of each one of them. There's a guy named Steiger who relates a story of a man whose grandfather in 1928 came across a concrete wall buried in a coal mine 2 miles under the ground. And he was shot blasting a seam. In the dislodged coal, he found bricks of concrete, about 1 foot by 1 foot, and showed broken edges of what had passed as an ordinary, I thought it was just sand, but it was cement. And they found a similar wall in a pit nearby. And when they found it, the coal company told them to quit working it. They wanted to make another, follow the seam somewhere else. They found human legs. They found them in coal in West Virginia. In 1926, the New York Times reported that Dr. Siegfried, who collected fossils from the University of Iowa, had found a human molar in coal deposits. And that was laid down during the Eocene epoch, and the enamel had carbonized and the roots had mineralized into an iron compound. But local dentists felt sure it was human, second lower molar. Now, Dr. Siegfried describes the stratum as that yielding fossils for dinosaur research. It had shark's teeth and fish scales as well. Well, okay. In 1971, bulldozers moving earth for mine exploration revealed traces of human remains in soft sandstone said to be 100 million years old. This is under 15 feet of material, including 5 or 6 feet of solid rock, and yet there appeared to be no caves or crevices in the overlying areas. Crazy. Bones and teeth embedded in rocks. University of Utah were brought in. They found 2 parts of a skeleton, a mixture of teeth and bone shards. They were described as Homo sapiens, and one of the bodies seemed to conform with burial customs of the tribes. Well, the tribes weren't supposed to be here at that time point. But they kind of forgot about those bones and that deep, deep matrix. Well, you know, if the remains really had been fossilized and were of an age comparable with the surrounding rocks, then this would be highly valuable in placing man-like beings in the distant geological time. Now, no fabric is supposed to have been found until Egypt produced cloth material 5,000 years ago. Well, in Russia, they got patterns and fabrics more than 80,000 years old. And you know what? During the Ice Age, that was a cold-ass place, too. And that was right in the midst of it for a long time. You know what? In 1944, I love this one. Newton Anderson, he was a 10-year-old boy, dropped a lump of coal in his basement and found that it contained this bell. Now, the bituminous coal that it was in was not mined near his house in Upshur County, West Virginia. And that coal is supposed to be about 300 million years old. Right smack dab in dinosaur times. Right? Alright, so it's got an iron clapper. It's a brass or brass alloy type bell. And it's in the Carboniferous period of strata of fossils. Coal. 300 million years. Which means it would be before the flood. Which means it would be before the Ice Age. And, you know, this guy named Norm Shabba, he had a book, Ammunition, which talks about the bell as an antediluvian artifact, which it is. 300 million years, yeah. The flood was 20,000 years ago. Sorry, folks. But the Institute for Creation Research, they have a YouTube channel. You should go check it out. They own a lot of these. They've been buying these things up. Anything like this that was pre-flood or just after flood. They do maintain that coal can be formed rather quickly, and they're right if the conditions are right. But they did have it submitted to tests, and it contains an unusual mix of metals that we don't use. It even had iodine and selenium, along with tin, zinc, and copper. So, of course, in Genesis 4:22, it does state that Tubal-Cain was an instructor in every artificer of brass and iron. They want to make that connection, so let them do it. Apparently this bell was buried with a massive vegetation that became coal, ended up thousands of years later. Thousands of years. They just got done saying it was 300 million years. See? It's not thousands of years. Maybe. Who knows? But it's they call it a demon-like being on the top of the bell, and I say it's a reptilian being. Especially think about it. 300 million years ago it would have been dap smack in the middle of a reptilian power. You know, other stuff they found too, gold chains and coal and cast iron pots. Yeah. You know, the Smithsonian's got stuff they're not going to let go. We got all kinds of stuff that we go on and on about, but I mainly want to talk, what do you think of the medallion? What do you think of the reptilian? Here's another look at that bell. So what'd you think of that? Alright folks, well, that's all I got for you this time, but I got some new stuff coming, new equipment, and hence I'll have some new software. And we'll be able to start this live show stuff. Got a special server dedicated just for this. So, okay, so folks, thanks for listening to another edition of The Slice, even with my hoarse voice.
And then stand by your side every time you call.